Yes, Mr. Mayor, I can hear you.
All right, thank you for joining us. Item 2.0 is the invocation. Look to someone, any volunteers for the prayer? Councilmember Waddell?
Father, we thank you, Lord, for life and the activity of our limbs, oh God. We thank you, Father, for the opportunity to serve this city as legislators, oh God, and we ask that you would endow us with heavenly wisdom, Father. Lord, we ask that all demonic activity be bound up over these meetings, Father, and that we have clarity and that our conscience be tied to your will in the name of Jesus. And Father, we ask that you give us peace during this meeting, that we would operate in a way, oh God, that would be pleasing unto you and would bring your kingdom glory. Father, we ask that you help us to make decisions for the long-term good of this city. And we ask that we put all of our own personal agendas and desires in our pockets as we move forward with this meeting, and that we only do what's best for the people that we've been elected to serve. It is in your Son, Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Item 3.0 is the Pledge of Allegiance. Council? Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Council, item 4.0 is the announcements and recognitions. We do have several people who are on tap to speak for public hearings and kind of a robust agenda, so if we can move this along, we'll start with, you have a couple of very important acknowledgments. Hispanic Heritage Month. Councilmember Ingram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be reading the proclamation celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, and afterwards a member from the Arts Council will be speaking about their activities to celebrate. Whereas Hispanic Heritage celebrates the countless impact and influence that Hispanics and Latinos have had throughout our community. And whereas the culture, food, music, and art of Hispanics and Latinos are fundamental to our cultural fabric as a community, as well as our social and economic progress. And whereas the Arts Council of Fayetteville, Cumberland County connects our communities through inspirational, modern, and contemporary artistry of the Hispanic and Latino culture in its inaugural Latina exhibit, a Hispanic Heritage Month exhibit, and whereas Latina exhibit highlights the rich and diverse influence Latino artists have on history and impact on mainstream American art. And whereas the city of Fayetteville will recognize Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15th through October 15th, 2021. And now, therefore, I, Mitch Colvin, Mayor of the City of Fayetteville, North Carolina, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby honorably proclaim September 15th through October 15th in the year 2021 to be in honor this celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month, in witness of whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the great seal of the City of Fayetteville to be affixed 22nd day of September 2021.
Thank you, Councilmember Ingram. Do we have someone from the Arts Council, Mr. Antonio?
Hi, yes, I'm here. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. As a Latino in Fayetteville, it's great to see our cultura represented with an art exhibit and proclamation. I've been partnering with our exhibits here at the Arts Council for 3 years, and this is one of my favorite shows. We've got Yare Mas from Venezuela, Boricuan clay, Mexican mixed media, and Cuban paintings. You'll see showcases of Selena, Frida Kahlo, and the vibrant colors you love with Latino art. It's really a fabulous show and a great chance to see Latino culture right here in Fayetteville. So it's a great opportunity. Thank you again, City Council, for honoring Latinos with Hispanic Heritage Month. And just, it's a great opportunity to just engage with that community. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Councilmember Ingram. The next recognition is Indigenous People Day, and I will meet Mr. Lowry at the mic.
Whereas the indigenous people inhabited the country long before the colonization of Americans began. And whereas the North Carolina is home to more than 122,000 American Indians and has 8 historical tribes. Whereas the indigenous people have built a vibrant and diverse culture safeguarding the land, language, spirit, and knowledge of traditions across generations. And whereas the city of Fayetteville, North Carolina, honors and respects the heritage and the culture of the American Indian tribes and people. And whereas we value the contributions made to technology, medicine, science, philosophy, and arts in our society and communities throughout the indigenous people's history, culture, knowledge, and labor. And whereas the city of Fayetteville recognizes the strength and resilience of the indigenous people and honor the tribal nations that continue to thrive today. Whereas, and now, I therefore, Mitch Colvin, Mayor of the City of Fayetteville, North Carolina, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby honorably proclaim October 10th as the year to be, this year of 2021 to be in honor of Indigenous People Day, and encourage residents to recognize and celebrate the many communities and cultures that are part of our city and state. I witness thereof, and hereunto set my hand on the cause of the Great Seal of Fayetteville to be affixed this 10th day of October 2021. Mayor Mitch Colvin. Mr. Mayor, if I may, before you sit down, I would like to announce the Light Fayetteville Pink. It has been going on. I think we are probably in our 4th or 5th year. Miss Gladys Hill has started that. If you need your pink light bulbs, they are at the Mid-South Lighting. And as of to date, I know, oh, I should say as of a few days ago, they've already raised up to $2,000. So get your pink light bulbs out, put them in front of your house, and help us support Fayetteville and light Fayetteville pink. Thank you.
And I'd like to add, you can go get your light bulb at the Arts Council or Mid-South Lighting Company. And I have just 2 quick announcements. On Wednesday, there is a job preparation workshop that's going to be at Smith Recreation Center called Opportunity Knocks. Resume writing, online application, tips for interviewing, and this is a part of the Murchison Choice. And this is this Wednesday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. And also, Fayetteville State's homecoming weekend is this week. They did resume that. And so if you do want to go to the game, you must either prove that you do not have COVID by a recent test or be able to show your vaccine card. And I believe they do have COVID testing on site as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Ingram. Councilmember Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just like to make an announcement in reference to the COVID-19 vaccines and testing. On October the 16th, there will be testing for COVID and also vaccines given at Heal the Land Outreach Ministries Church, 414 Hall Street. And then on the 6th of November, 3 weeks later, we're going to be giving the second COVID vaccine at the same location. So that's October the 16th and November the 6th. We ask everyone that wants to be tested or wants the vaccine to come out on the 16th and on the 6th of November to receive those vaccines and testing, and this is free. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Perfect segue into our COVID update. Mr. Bullitt, see you standing in the ready, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, and all of our listeners. At the risk of having produce slung at me. Yes, we'll talk about some vaccines and the urgency, and we'll add to a little bit of that tonight. We're here on our 575th day under our current state of emergency, and we're 53 days in on our mask mandate. I think the papers carried a question that went to Dr. Fauci about Halloween and what we're going to do with Halloween, and his advice was Halloween can go on under the current measures that we're taking, of course, and he was pressed about when the masks come off. His answer today was to take it from 90-some thousand cases a day we're having, let's get down under 10,000. So not trying to speak for him, but that's kind of statistically a good ways for us to still go. I know a lot of people are excited about some improvements in numbers. You've no doubt seen the press expound on these, we'll call them 2-month waves that kind of go trough and crest. I don't put a lot of faith in that too carefully because a lot of people now are excited that if our high point was late August, early September, then that kind of leads us to late November, Thanksgiving weekend, into the first part of pre-Christmas as being a real low point. I caution against that simply because if you look at the landscape last year, you had a very slow increase with a population that had no protection whatsoever. Now you've got a sharp set of peaks in this current time frame we're in as they go down, and you've got a population with some amount of protection, and so that the people getting hit the hardest now are the unprotected, however you want to define that, or the vulnerable. So stay the course, continue what you're doing. People know that it works. And with that point, I make the point about flu season last year because that's the next vaccine I'm going to harp on. There's a term on the street right now, kind of in the vernacular, called a twindemic, and we don't want to go in that direction. The state attributed, I believe, if I can remember correctly, about 7 deaths to influenza by itself last year, which is unheard of. We normally have a season of maybe 150 to 200 statewide. So that's great for last year, but my admonition would be, and this comes from my partners, the health department, everyone else, we know what to do, so let's do it. And one of the things we can do is get that flu shot. I know, just a praise point for what happened over the weekend, they did a vaccination clinic where animals got their rabies shot and their owners were offered the flu shot and the COVID vaccine. So if it's good enough for the dog, let's get with it, folks. Let's get our flu shots before this season sneaks up on us. And a lot of the providers that you would have gotten your COVID shot from are receiving the flu vaccine now and can give it to you. Subject to any questions or comments you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Bullitt. Any questions for Mr. Bullitt?
Do we know what day we are?
It's 500 and something.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am,
it's all right.
575.
I missed it, I'm sorry.
Are you tracking with me?
I am.
And day 53 on your mask, so that's why I put the Fauci in there. He's never going to pin it down for you, but hey,
All right.
we're making progress. That's what's exciting.
That's it. Thank you, Mr. Bullitt. Appreciate the update. Appreciate your diligence and hard work for 570-plus days. So thank you. 5.0, City Manager's Report, Mr. Manager.
Yes, sir, Mayor and Council, thank you very much. I'll be very brief, as I suspect that Council will pull the item off of the agenda regarding the Emergency Rental Assistance Program funding for what I'm calling ERAP 2.1. But before we get there, I would like to just tell the Council that we heard you when we were here with you a couple of weeks ago. At that point in time, we were very optimistic that we would meet and exceed the federal guidelines of having 65% of our funds obligated. We blew past that, and we have 100% of our funds obligated as of October 7th. That is, the goal was originally for the federal government that we would have 100% obligated by the end or in sometime in December. And IEM and the city, we've exceeded that. And that's why we're back tonight on your consent agenda asking you to recharge that pot of money with an additional $2 million. And again, what we're calling ERAP 2.1. Once that money is in the pipeline, that additional $2 million that's on your consent agenda, we then will go back to the federal government and ask for an additional $3 million to be able to draw down to recharge that, for a total of over $10 or $11 million that we hope to be able to provide to our residents in need in Fayetteville and Cumberland County. And with that, Mayor, that was pretty much largely the announcement that I had. Working with community partners, really pressing our partner IEM, and the dedicated work of our staff, including Alex Baker and Chris Cawley, who again might be called up on the consent agenda item in just a moment. But I think the story I'd like to have council focus on is that you asked us to do it, and IEM has done it. And 100% obligated, again, 60 days ahead of schedule. But I'm sure there'll be additional questions when we get to the consent agenda. But that's all, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Do have some questions, because this item may be pulled, so if, not sure if we talked about pulling that, if
did.
we haven't, I did,
She
okay,
asked.
all right, so I'll save my question for that. All right, thank you. Mr. Manager, item 6.0 is approval of the agenda. Mayor Pro Tem Jensen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We, like to pull 7.0.
No, we'll do that during consent.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So let's
Okay.
do, so approval of agenda, so if you're doing something on that last one.
Okay,
There.
yes, sir. I would like to pull 11.01 for, next, meeting.
So I think it would go,
October 25th.
it would go approval of the agenda with the exception of that, and then you can,
Yes, sir.
So the approval of the agenda, and to, pull item 11.01 and
table it.
put it on whatever.
Table,
meeting you
yes,
want to.
yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
All right, so there's a motion by Mayor Pro Tem to approve the agenda with exception of item 11.01, which will be tabled to, what date did you say?
October 25th.
To October 25th, which is
or as-
the last council meeting of this month. Is there a second to the motion? Second by Councilmember Wright. Any discussion on the motion? All right, council, I'll look to you for your votes to approve the agenda as stated. Councilman Hare, Kinston, need your votes? All right, hands up, y'all, because, okay. Motion to approve, Councilman Davis?
Agree, Mr. Mayor.
All right, motion, those voting in favor, Councilman Dawkins, Wright, Colvin, Jensen, and Hare, and Davis. Those voting opposed, show of hands. Council members, Banks McLaughlin, Ingram, Kinston, and Waddell. Motion carries. Item 7.0, now, Mayor Pro Tem, I didn't write names, I'm sorry. So, 7.03, who was gonna remove that? Councilman Dawkins,
Motion to approve the consent agenda and pulling item 7.013, 7.014, 7.015, Mr. Mayor.
1415, okay. And, Councilman Dawkins, do you mind, okay, you did call 7.013. I had something in my notes for 7.03, was that?
We've got that tabled.
You worked that out, okay. All right, there's a motion to approve consent with the exception of items 7.013, 7.014, and 7.015, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, by Councilman Dawkins, is there a second? Second by Councilmember Waddell. Any discussion on the motion? All right, council, I'll look to you for your votes. All right, Councilman Davis?
Agreed.
All right, that's unanimous. Madam Clerk, item 7.03, Councilman Dawkins, thank you so much. 7.03, just wanted the chief to talk about,
Yes, sir. Sheila, we're actually going to provide that information on the repaving to the council at a separate date, so that one didn't get pulled.
right.
So
Yeah, so this particular item was a grant coming through Governor's Crime Commission regarding kids and guns and gang violence. Chief, can you just explain that?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. So we typically always ask for a grant for educating kids on guns, and this is another, we've gotten it 4 years in a row. This is another one where we apply for the program of educating, going into the schools or going to the churches. This is part of the budgeting that covers the cost of the curriculum. It also, the last 2 years, we also got funding for an updated video that we share. So this is also for training of other jurisdictions as well. So not only are we making attempts, we weren't able to do it last year, of getting back to the schools about educating kids. What we've seen from like the 6th and 7th grade, when we teach them about decision-making and guns, it's had some impact within the schools and within our community. So that's what this grant is for, sir.
And the amount of it is what, 46,000?
$46,000, yes, sir.
Chief, does that cover it? Like, I know we've been doing it for 4 years. And I'm appreciative of the Crime Commission grant. Do you run out of resources? Because we see that guns are very prevalent with our youth. I think that's a prime age. So one is, could this program use more funding, even if it's general fund dollars? And then two, how are we combating what takes place on social media? I think that's a big problem now with our children.
Big second question, but let me answer the first one. No, it doesn't, but that doesn't stop us, because we also utilize the resources of the workforce to go in and teach. So when we come up short, we look for other funding and keep that on stock. So it doesn't, but every year the amount that is being offered from the Crime Commission is different. So we're competing against other jurisdictions as well for the programs that we want to push out. So we're grateful for the 46,000, but it's never enough. Now, how do we combat against social media without going too much into operational? We do our best.
Just with this part of the program.
Oh, this part of the
with
program.
education, that's what I mean.
Oh.
Because I know ads can be purchased on social media. Are we doing any of that type of marketing?
No, and so are you saying to focus on the youth?
This particular grant is to deter youth gun violence, right? Or youth
We're
and
applying
guns.
for, yes,
So
educating kids on
the
guns.
same type of video that you show in school
Yes.
on a video, because these kids use Instagram and social media outlets, if you have more resources like Council General Fund, which I will bring this back as a council member request in the future, if you have more resources, I know social media ads are not very expensive, but they're very effective because they're always on social media.
So we have not looked at ads. The only thing we did recently do, we did it and utilize asset forfeiture funds in order to have an advertisement for kids or even the community to try to create a PSA on all our social media networks, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. We had submissions come through where we got a committee of the community to judge this week on it, and we're going to be pushing those out as PSAs. But in regards to advertising on social media network, I know that's kind of tricky, and because I never even looked at it as far as how can we pay for that, because I've viewed it as the reverse, that the more people that you have followers, then advertisers come to pay you. So I haven't looked at.
So social media, you're able to target ages, demographics,
Okay.
locations, and so you can buy ads that'll pop up in their feed to say whatever you wanted to say.
Okay, I'll look
And
into
it's a
that.
real effective.
I'll look into
Two.
that.
All right. Any other questions for Chief Hawkins?
So if I may go, just a few minutes, about the social media, and what we have going on with our children right now, I think it's something that we really need to look at, and, I deal with young adults every day, and social media is so important that I would be interested in you coming back with that request. There's a lot that we can get out there with the TikToks and the Facebooks and all that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Council, any other questions? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, sir. Look for a motion from you, sir.
Motion to approve 7.013, Mr. Mayor.
All right. There's a motion by Councilmember Dawkins to approve, seconded by Councilmember Ingram. Any discussion on the motion? Council, I look to you for your votes to approve that item. All right, Madam, Councilmember Davis?
Agreed.
All right, motion carries unanimous. Item 7.014, Councilman Dawkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council voted when we approved the budget earlier this year, $100,000 for our New Year's celebration, and which a lot of council members have been working hard on for over a year, and I supported that. And the reason that I pulled this item, well, we're looking for another 65,000, and what I heard a couple weeks ago from Mrs. Bianca Schoenman, the CEO of the Cool Spring Downtown District, was that private funds can be raised, and that was one observation I have. And then the second observation was the downtown district has, they're a municipal service district where they charge an additional 10% tax on their property owners. So I really want to see if we can investigate other areas besides our general fund for this additional 65,000. So, Mr. Mayor, my motion for the consideration of the council is that we delay this vote until the second meeting in November to give Mrs. Schoenman and the downtown district some time to raise some private funds. I think private businesses are going to want to be a part of this celebration. I think what I've seen so far, can I say, we used to say, hey, that's really cool. This star that lights up over the stadium was very creative. So, Mr. Mayor, that's my motion to delay this for, in effect, a month to let's look at some other funding sources besides the taxpayer.
All right, so I did, there's a motion by Councilmember Dawkins, seconded by Councilmember Hare. Mr. Hewitt, you had something?
Yes, sir. That would, I think we may be a little bit beyond that. Bianca and the company are spending money now, and we were trying to put the money in place. That was a consideration that I had as well, sir, that's why we only put 100 in. But she was able to convince the council to do the 165. We can definitely take that back, but where she's at, we're, what, 90 days from New Year's or something like that? It's about 90?
Well, let me ask you this, Mr. Manager and Councilman Dawkins.
Yeah.
If the council voted to appropriate but not disperse, to give an opportunity.
Well, based upon that, I think that she's made certain obligations, but if it's the will of the council for us to do as Mr. Dawkins said, which is not, it's not unreasonable, that there would also be some private funding. But I think that as close as we are to the date, that it may have an unintended consequence. But
So my question was, if it's appropriated, I understand that she didn't want to enter into contractual agreements without knowing the funding source. So if it's appropriated but not dispersed, does that fix that problem? That's my question for you, Mr. Manager. I understand. I'm saying if the council votes to appropriate it, is she able to proceed? I understand that her caution about.
She could, but I would just ask, what would be the trigger to then release the money?
Well, basically, if you see that the additional tax revenue, because those downtown businesses have grown organically by 14% in value, and then his question is if you get some corporate sponsorships, maybe it offsets the $65,000 budget. If that, so therefore, I think it addresses the concern. She's able to enter into contracts because the money's been set aside but not dispersed until, a certain date. That's just a proposal.
Well, we can definitely come back if that's the council's will, if you do that as you're suggesting, Mayor. And we can ask her to flesh out a more detailed budget for the 25th. But with the money, if you were inclined to do as you said, which is to appropriate it, but for us to hold it.
I mean, I support the effort. I'm just asking the
gotcha.
possibility.
I think that's would work as well.
Mayor Pro Tem.
So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm gonna go back, if we're talking about the 65,000, I think one of the things that really excited us about the, celebration that we were having, it being in Festival Park and putting the big Fayetteville up at the top and having the star and keeping the Fayetteville there. If there's one thing I've learned sitting in this chair for 8 years, and it's a proven fact, is when we sat here to do the baseball field and we talked about the scoreboard and were we gonna spend the extra money, and, I think we about knock out drag outs about it. And when everybody walks in there, you know, Fayetteville is good enough. If we're gonna do it, let's do it right, and then let the people decide if they want to continue the tradition. But we are less than 90 days out. That's a lot to say, yeah, you have this, but we're gonna turn it around and, you know, you might get this, you might not get that. And I feel that if the businesses want to come in, that's great, and maybe we won't spend the whole 165, but I think we all saw when the symphony was downtown at Festival Park and we had the big screens up, we were looking like a big city, like we should look like. So just my opinion, and thank you very much.
All right, Councilman Wright.
I kind of agree with Councilmember Dawkins to give the business owners and community business leaders an opportunity to sponsor this event out of the gate. I think, you know, we are 90 days out, but I think we need to give them an opportunity, and I think it'll work. It's unfortunate that we did not kind of push this prior, but I really want it to be a grand event, but I don't think it's really far-fetched to see what we can get from stakeholders in the downtown area and probably outside to put up signs or advertisement as far as sponsorship, and that will help the bottom line as well. I kind of like that idea.
All right, so, council, what if, I do understand 90 days, it's a nonprofit, it's a lot to raise it, but would you consider, Mr. Dawkins, if we voted to move it forward with a requirement that she report any corporate donations if it came in? Would that satisfy? Is that an amendment that you would support, sir? All right, so there's a motion on the floor. Councilman Dawkins, seconded by Councilmember Hare. Councilman Dawkins.
That we are going to table this to November the 25th and give the Cool Spring Downtown District time to solicit private donations to help defray the cost of the $189,263 budgeted proposal. And also wanted to look at the MSD money, the Municipal Service District money, to see if that might be available instead of it coming out of the general fund. We've already appropriated $100,000 out of the general fund, but when you look at the change, it's more like $130,000 out of operations already, and now they're wanting another 65. So the actual total comes out to 189,000. The math is fuzzy.
So Councilman Dawkins, I think, I'm glad you restated that. I thought, I heard two things. One, I thought we would move it forward with conditions, but your motion was to table it until November 25th, which is going to be in the Thanksgiving holiday, which is going to put them less than 40 days from...
Whatever that second meeting in November is.
He just said November.
Well, my dad's birthday is November 25th. So whenever I think about November, I think about his birthday.
Oh, okay.
So whatever that second, I'm not sure.
But well, my point is, if you put it in November, you know, is that time enough for them to do it versus moving it forward so they can make preparations, but report if there's corporate donations that come in that offset the city's contribution? That was what my proposal.
Well, I can shorten that to like our first meeting in November.
So it's y'all's motion, I'm just,
Yeah.
okay. All right, Councilmember Waddell.
Mr. Mayor, I think it would seem as if the monies are being spent already, that maybe the agency that's spending the money already was a little bit presumptuous, because it's general knowledge when dealing with a governing body that it's not final until there's a vote. And so if this is the vote tonight and they've already started spending money,
Ms. Shoneman just might have to manage her expectations if those funds don't, if it doesn't align the way that she thought it was going to. And I do understand the mentality or the mindset of not wanting to be just good enough. But in this instance, I think that what Councilman Dawkins and what Councilman here initially motioned makes a lot of sense to get some buy-in from some other agencies to offset some of these costs. It's an entertainment-focused event with potentially minimal economic development value long-term. And granted, I do understand the ideology of wanting to, and let me articulate why I say that, because this has been positioned for a long time as something to keep Fayetteville in Fayetteville for these events. I would be under the assumption that if this is something that's happening in the evening, which most events do, that the economic impact would be contained to those agencies that serve anybody during those hours. So I can't see it being very widespread like some of the other projects that we talk about. So I do think that it would be wisdom to have other people buy in, and so I'm inclined to support the motion the way you have presented it, and probably with any other changes would not be willing to do so.
All right, so there's a motion on the floor, Councilman Hare?
I do support it, but I wanted just to ask this question because you did bring, or you alluded to, if it was allocated there and the funds were already still in place, what, and if additional funds came through what our motion is about, with that still already being in place, how would that change the motion?
Yeah, the motion right now is to table it. The proposal I made was to approve it and appropriate the money, but not disperse. So that's two different.
Right. So that's my discussion with the maker of the motion. How do you, just for discussion, if we did it that way, it still would be there, and since the group is already moving forward with whatever it is that they're doing with the planning and getting it ready, as we all have stated, we all know it's not that far away. Give me your thoughts on that, Johnny.
Well, Councilman Hare, the way I view it is I want to give them a chance to go out and raise some money on their own. I mean, if they're being presumptive, and I think Council Lady Waddell touched upon that they're out there going ahead and spending up to this $189,000, I'd have real heartburn with that. So what I want to do is I want to, let's shorten it then. Let's give them just 2 more weeks. But I'd like to see if we can use MSD money. I want to see if we can use municipal service district money instead of general fund money.
Yeah, that's another question I wanted to ask, and I don't know if the city manager can, just for discussion, do we have that authority on that money?
You control the MSD money, but the MSD money in large part is already consumed by the Cool Springs contract. But the New Year's Eve celebration, while held in downtown, is for the entire community. And the nexus with Cool Springs is that we have contracted with them separately to put this on for us.
Right.
And so that we thought it did have some synergies, but the MSD monies could potentially, if they were not already spoken for in the budget.
Well, I'm still with you, council member. Even though you're speaking about shortening that time some, that will probably be even better, and I would also second that motion.
All right, Councilmember Ingram.
Councilmember Dawkins, I just have a brief question. Are you asking for the full 165, or are you just asking for this 65?
65.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
ma'am. And let's shorten it to whatever our first real meeting.
Are you okay
work
with the
session
next
is.
council meeting? Our next council meeting to get that information back? A
That's what,
week
2 weeks?
or 2
I
weeks?
think that could, let's.
To keep
let me
it
modify my
in this
motion to
month?
go to October 25th.
That's our next council meeting, correct? Are you okay with that,
Yes,
sir?
ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so you amended that motion? It's been
October
seconded.
25th.
Mayor Pro Tem Jensen. All right, so right now the motion on the floor is to table this to the October 25th I've got 25 in my brain.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
18th, 25th, to bring that back to that
Yes.
next meeting. All right, any further discussion? All right, council, I look,
Further, so in the next 2 weeks, you're looking for the downtown district to speak to possible donors and see what happens at that
got you.
point. So if it comes back, certain amount is raised, certain amount is not, are you willing to go forward if not enough is raised at that point?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I want to know about the MSD money that the city manager talked about. If there's some money, if Bianca Schoenman can show us on the MSD money, I'd rather it come out of MSD money. However they get to 65 is
well,
great.
the contract that we have with them is funded by that tax. But now there will probably be, based on the projections, an increase in the amount we receive from that tax because of new investment. So, but we may not know that until the tax receipts start coming in. So I don't know if that'll answer your question. Councilmember Ingram?
Yes, I think Dr. Whitfield may reach out as well, but we do have a board meeting this Thursday and I'll definitely bring it up, but I also think, Mr. Manager, can you prepare to have Ms. Schoeneman in our next meeting to talk about the budget or see where we are with outside private funds being raised and answer any questions council may have moving forward?
Yes, ma'am, and we will also ask her to, I'm not familiar with the 189,000 that has been said all over, where was the 165,000?
Yeah, that's,
And so if there's additional money that is being budgeted that's outside of this, I would like to know as well. So we'll be asking her that as a follow-up. And once we receive it, we'll be happy to send that out to council.
yeah, I think we're only talking about the 65,000. That's the only thing that
That's right.
Councilmember Dawson is talking about. All right, thank you. Mr. Mayor, I call for the vote.
Okay, well, let me make a comment, and, got Mayor Pro Tem who's on here. Mayor Pro Tem, and then, we'll move to
On
the,
my question.
all right, so, the motion on the floor is to bring this back at the next meeting where Ms. Schoeneman will be here to give an, accurate update as to where this budget is. I will say this, anytime we have people, coming into our downtown area, they spend money, they patronize the businesses, so it is an economic benefit to it. Yeah, well, it is. I mean, restaurants are full, shops having transactions, and so foot traffic is good. So, all right, council, has been called for the question. Those in favor of tabling this, show of hands. All right, Councilman Dawkins, Banks, McLaughlin, Wright, Ingram, Hare, Kinston, Councilman Kinston, were you? Okay, Kinston and Waddell. Councilman Davis?
Agreed.
All right, those voting and opposed? Mayor Pro Tem Jensen, myself, motion carries. Item 7.015. Ca- All right, so, Councilmember Kinston.
So the reason why I pulled this particular item is I did have some concerns after looking at the, let me see what you have it listed as the additional administrative resources that are proposed. And in addition to that, looking at the contract for the deliverables. In the contract, it stated, give me just a moment, that if they exceeded the expectations before, go back to it. If the program funding is 100% distributed prior to the milestone deliverables at the time are depleted. So one of the questions I had is in looking at the deliverables, I want to make sure that on the proposed 5.0 proposed schedule, if those deliverables have been completed. It's not that I have a problem with the program, but I want to make sure that the program is running funding the way it's supposed to be ran. In addition to, if you can explain how the wages for the program is being done as far as the payment, because I do understand that they have moved and they're over and getting volunteers from Urban Ministry as well.
No, ma'am, they're actually not volunteering, they're paying those folks for their work. But there's a lot of pieces into this contract, and I want to try to answer that as best I can, but some of that gets really technical. Essentially, the way that we are getting billed right now is we had a 7-month contract, and they are billing us for admin once every 7 months. Now, in a vacuum, they would be completely done with this contract now that they have 100% allocated the money. But we don't work in a vacuum. And so we've got another $2 million to recharge. We're hopefully going to draw down another $3 million from the feds after that. And then the county's got money that they're also working through. And so we expect for IEM to be in this for several more months. And we're going to help sustain that operation, and that dramatic surge that they brought in at the beginning of September, we're trying to help sustain that surge staffing level currently.
And the amount, according to what's in the additional administrative report, so they're gonna be hiring, the proposal is to hire 3 additional caseworkers at $52,000 per year?
That's the approximate salary, so we kind of take that and we break that down into an hourly rate, and then we do a level of effort to get to their monthly burn. But that's kind of the gauge that they use, is that $52,000 number.
Okay, so they're hiring an additional 3 caseworkers at 52,000, additional 2 program specialists at 41, and then the consultant at 41, and then the 2 additional specialists at the $25 per hour. I just want to make sure. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So part of this here is that our partner has already undertaken some of this staffing because it was required in order to keep moving the program. So this dramatic spend and kind of shift that we've seen in the past month and a half was due to IEM undertaking some of these additional resources. But I do think that the 2 of the things that you pointed out are pretty powerful, which is the additional case managers and then the constituent services position. And so we want to put someone locally who can be dedicated towards answering some of the challenges that are out there. In this really high-touch social services environment, things happen. And so we can talk to you about what an average is. We can talk to you about what 98% of the cases go through and do. But there's always that outlier. There's always those folks who have very unique circumstances. We had a lady recently who passed away through natural causes after an award notice had came. And so then somebody had to go figure out, well, she still owed these bills, but she's passed away. Who's living in the house? How do we do this? And help make that decision. And that's what our partner agency is out there doing. They did not have enough resources, so they've tapped on folks like Fayetteville Urban Ministries to allocate 2 of their staff members towards those efforts. But I do want to make that point that they are paying for those nonprofit resources.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so does that change, being that we're going into 2.1, make sure I get it right? The 2.10, I think is what it's called. Does that change their contract on their deliverables because they're hiring more people to put the money out in the street, or is that gonna stay under the same contract?
No, so we will be amending this contract based on direction from council tonight and requiring them to fulfill what they put on this proposal, which is to increase our customer service, our communication to our clients, increase our communication to our elected officials and stakeholders in local government, and to get this money out the door.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Call, I did have a couple of questions. Thank you for that. Over the last probably 2 weeks, I've been sending you a ton of emails, you and the manager, on every email I receive, and it's a lot, as you've seen. So my question is, they met this mile marker by, what do you call it, appropriating. We just talked about appropriating and distribution. They call it something
Let's say
else.
awarding.
So they've awarded it. Has it been distributed? And if so, how long after the award does the distribution come?
Sure. So right now, it's a little over 3 weeks from award to payment. There are outliers. There's, again, I can talk about 95, 98%, but there's always things that pop out that are just very unique.
Right.
We are working to cut that by 33% so that we can get more towards our goal of 2 weeks from award to payment.
To me, that's a deliverable because
Yep.
the award is just that, but it's not the check that pays the bill to keep people, because people will not be able to pay their light bill with an award.
Right.
They have to have a check.
It's confidence and assurance, but it's not money in the bank.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, so this is to fund additional staff. Is there any additional administrative funding that's a part of this? Not for the company. I understand paying the resources for manpower.
So unfortunately, they are a private company, and so we cannot see their profit margin. We have done the math on what they call their burn rate. So
Yeah.
I can look at their fully allocated staff. I can guess at their salaries, and I can tell you that they are not making a ton of money based on what we're looking at right now. This
I'm a
this
private
is a bear
businessman.
of
I'm
a
not against
program.
making money. I just
Well, this has been a
look for
bear of a
results.
program. Yes, sir. Yeah. So we can't see that insight, but we can hold them accountable to bringing on the resources that they say they're going to bring on.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right, Council, any other questions for Mr. Cawley? All right, Ms. Kinston, this is your, Councilmember Kinston.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the adoption of the special revenue funds for project ordinance 2022-8.
There's a motion by Councilmember Kinston. It was seconded by Councilmember Wright. Any discussion on the motion? All right, Council, I'll look to you for your votes. Those voting in favor? Councilman Davis?
Agreed.
All right. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Cawley, for the update. 8.01, the acceptance of the FY 2020 first quarter strategic performance report. It seems like we just had this. Can you tell us what this is?
Yes, sir. At every occasion, I'd like to remind the council just how good a job the city staff is doing.
Is that right?
And so, what we had on, in September, I'm honest about it.
Sure,
In
there's some folks
September,
falling out their
What we
chair
had
right now.
was the,
Y'all do good work.
year-end report. And, Mr. Lowry can, kind of go through this very quickly because it is in your packet. We do understand that you may have other items on the agenda, but we always like to come in at the quarter to tell you, what we've done to meet council's goals.
All right, so the last report we received was what?
A year-end,
No,
year-end for last fiscal year.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council. My name is Chris Lowry. I'm the Strategic and Performance Analytics Manager for the city. Over the past few months, the Strategic Performance Team has put together a quarterly report and worked with different departments to gather some of the data. I'm happy to be here and present this, and I count it an honor and a privilege to present this quarterly report to the council and for our citizens to review. The mayor, city council, and CMO provides tremendous support for the strategic planning and performance management efforts. Because of your commitment, we are on our way to building a culture of high-performing organization that is sustainable. The city is committed to accountability and transparency, and as such reports progress throughout the fiscal year, to include this first quarter report, which we bring you tonight. Council, my presentation tonight will be brief, especially considering there are 58 pages of detail in this report before you. So allow me to skip through the report tonight to highlight a few areas of significant results. I'll state the slide number as I go and the audience can follow along. The report will also be available on the city's website under the Strategic and Performance Analytics Department. Skip to page 9 here. Here's our TFA action plans. Currently, we have 14 TFA, 3 that are not on target. We will review those, give a little bit of detail and some stories behind that one. Goal 2, a responsive city government supporting a diverse and viable economy. The first one is TFA 2.1.1, which focuses on executing the Opportunity Zone Plan. In the first 2 quarters, or in the first quarter, 2 of 3 market analysis have been completed. The third market study for the Murchison Choice area is underway, which we see here in green is the 67%. The incentive review will partner ECD with Development Services and PwC to develop the structured programs. So the second segment, you see a red 0%. We will be working on those, along with the Investor Day, which was contracted out to another organization to implement and will be needed to follow up on. So we will reach out and get a percentage back from them and see where we're at as far as doing that either virtually or in person due to COVID restrictions. Go to slide 15. There are a lot of projects that goes on within the departments and across the city that are going on to beautify and grow our city and make it more beautiful for our residents and for visitors. ECD continues to be on a schedule with Choice Neighborhoods planning at 25%. Pay Funeral Home was bought in September and will be demolished by Q2, which is now currently at 50%. Cat Site 1, environmental and wetland work is being performed to determine any remediation issues. Senior Center East is waiting on Army Corps of Engineers for wetland determination, which is sitting at 25%. Looking at our beautification, approximately 293 trees were planted last year, with the goal of another 150 trees to be planted this year. The conceptual design for Makerspace is currently sitting at 100% for the design, and it was approved by council. However, no budget as of today was in place. I'll scroll to slide 17. Goal 3 is our investment in today and tomorrow, which focuses on building a great city. TFA 3.4.1, I'm sorry, slide 22. On October 4th, City Council was briefed regarding policy violation and correction process. Development Services is currently coordinating requests with Longleaf Pine Realtors Association and the HOA for HOA and residential property management. That is sitting currently at 25%.
Can you go back, because I don't understand. You said that the last item was currently sitting at 25%?
The Development Residential Management Program.
Okay, got it.
TFA 3.5.1, this is the focus on building a smart city capacity. So how have we accomplished this within the city? First off, IT and collaboration with Public Services set up a smart initiative to allow for online petitions. IT also worked with Development Services and developed redistricting forms with map figure consultants. And they also worked with City Clerk Office, Corporate Communication, and CMO to transition city council meetings to Transit Center while still allowing citizens viewership and participations. Each of these tactics all quantify for 25% since they are still currently on task and on time. Slide 27, we hit goal 4. This is the desirable place to live and work. This is what we call our quality of life goal. Go to 4.4.1 on slide 31. This is focusing on reducing litter and illegal dumping. The rapid illegal dumping camera system is on hand and is running through the test phase. It should be running through October. We have that set at 50%. We had a successful September Fayetteville Beautiful event with another one planned for the springtime, which I encourage everyone to come out and join to help pick up trash and litter along our sidewalks or along our corridors. We had 550 volunteers this time, an increase of over 100% in volunteers from April 2021. Over 5 tons of litter was picked up. Looking at our environmental sustainability events, we have 5 for Fridays. So October will be a cleanup along southwest side of the city. We have an e-waste drive that will be setting up and a shred event, which will be the first week of November or December. And along with a social media campaign where we'll be filming illegal dump cleanup for advertising.
Where's the southwest side of the city consist of?
Being new to the city, I'm still learning the districts, but I will have to get back with you on that, and I can give you some clarification.
Davis. What's that? I'm sorry. Southwest. 6.
District 6. Okay, thank you.
And I'll also make a note of that just to follow, just for my personal reference. Thank you. So TFA 4.5.1 is focusing on implementing residential revitalization efforts. Here we have the Good Neighbor program is implemented and promoted by ECD, but is being revamped and upgraded under employer of choice. And we'll be back in Q3 with updates. So here you notice there's touring yellow, touring green, but they're both 25%. The reason we decided to go with yellow is because we were revamping that program. So there'll be some consistency so we can keep drawing an eye to it to make sure we stay focused on those. The first community impact team will occur in Q3, which is dependent also on COVID. And the commercial corridor program is marketed in an ongoing program that is prepared to help eligible businesses within the corridor. We go to slide 40, which is dealing with the strategy to address poverty and homelessness. Looking at the pathways for prosperity, communities and schools has been awarded a student support specialist that has been deployed to Luther Nick Gerald School. ECD has reviewed the empowerment plan for its possible applicability for Fayetteville. This group is an American humanitarian organization located in Milwaukee Junction, Detroit, Michigan. This organization works to address homelessness by providing jobs to homeless women and by manufacturing a coat that is given to homeless individuals in need. We're currently at 50% on this tactic. The Day Resource Center is on schedule and design is underway. We have set at 25%. Goal 5. Moving on to Goal 5, this goal pushes us to be financially sound city, providing exemplary city services. 5.1.1 TFA is to implement strategies to engage council, staff, and citizens in finance, budget, and performance reporting. The objective for 5.1 on page or slide 45 is dealing with the city is currently examining current tools and practices used for data and identifying peer cities who are leaders in budgeting and financing while researching national trends. The budget department has created a 5-question survey that has been rolled out to boards and commissions, along with the past 2 Citizens Academy survey group. Staff has generated a report database and working to make it searchable and more functional for ease of use. Goal 6. This is our last city goal, but is definitely just as important as the others. It is focused on having a collaborative citizen and business engagement. TFA 6.1.1 is to develop a strategy to maximize our relationship with our military. Staff is researching details and stakeholders to start the draft for the military liaison program that we will be bringing back to council once complete. We're also conducting research and engaging stakeholders to hold a second quarter meeting for Military Host Cities Coalition. We are a little behind on this tactic, but working diligently to exceed our timeline. The NCMAC has allocated funds of $68,000 for our digital information kiosk projects. That was all completed in their last quarterly meeting in August. And TFA 6.1.2 is to conduct a disparity study to improve city policy and practice related to contracting with minority, women-owned, and disadvantaged businesses. In July 2021, data was gathered and submitted to Griffin & Strong, which was the vendor that was selected and approved by City Council. Staff is waiting to hear back from Griffin & Strong for the next steps or possible information needed after a review of the initial submittal. Outreach was held in September with another planned for October 23rd to local vendors dealing with the disparity study. We have this tactic set at 25%. Moving on to page 57. Moving deeper into FY22, Council, staff continues with performance stat meetings and developing our departmental business plans. We will bring you a quarterly update on the TFA action plans at the close of the second quarter, which will be in January. Tonight, Council, we're asking that you accept the FY22 first quarter strategic performance report. I will stand ready to answer any questions that you may have. We may have to take some of the questions back to staff as there is not many as in here in the room as possible due to COVID.
All right, do you have several? I'll go to Councilmember Hare, Waddell, Dawkins, and Wright, and Colvin.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chris, for your report. Mr. Lowry, on slide 12, can you go to slide 12? Now, and it caught my attention because of the 0%. And just help me, it may just be clarification for myself only. And is this only speaking of the opportunity zones discussions that we were having earlier in the year, but the 0% of incentive, policy, and purpose, well, it says proposed framework here, but are we not having any forms of incentive programs or incentive policies for in any kind of projects that we're doing? I mean, am I going too far outside of what this bullet may be? Because I thought, well, I'll let you answer that first.
I can follow up on that question because as of right now, I can't answer it directly, but I can reach out to ECD and get some information and follow back up with that question for you as to why we're still at 0%.
I
And
just think
if,
it just caught my eye because I saw incentives, and I know that's always been a part of discussion of giving incentive to those that we were trying to get into particular areas of the city, you know, some of our blight areas, some of our lower income areas. And
yes, sir.
yeah, so that was my reason when I saw that 0%. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Harris. Councilmember Waddell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is it Mr. Lowry?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Lowry, how are the percentages determined?
So that is based off of some of the things that we want to set out. We'll have an objective put in place, and we'll try to put different milestones that we'll have in place. So we'll discuss this out with SPA, with Strategic Performance, along with the departments, and we'll set up a timeline and try to come up with some different milestones that we can measure, and then we'll base our judgments based off of that.
And where are citizens or members of the council able to see those different tactics? Because I know that we have the tactics here that are listed, but the subheading, I guess, under those tactics to be able to kind of track along with the progress that you all are making.
The most obvious, I don't think we have those posted online, but if they would want to reach out, we can try to get some information from that way.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Wright?
Yeah, I got two questions, maybe brief. Page 41, it talked about the community and schools at 25%. Can you elaborate a little bit on what is actually happening with that particular item?
So
That
as
we
of right
started, go ahead.
As of right now, the only thing we have listed right now is the student support specialist that has been deployed out to Luther Nick Gerald School. From there, we will have some more follow-ups that we'll be able to report out. If I'm not mistaken, money has already been dispersed out for that, so it's actually using a consultant for that to be able to push that out further for us.
So you talk about one specialist or how many specialists, and if the city manager can kind of dig down and help us?
I think it was it $80,000? And if it is for a quarter, then we're 1 quarter in, so that's the 25%. So next quarter, if it's funded and filled, be 50.
So what's the problem? They can't find the specialists, or because it's been?
Well, that's probably a good question. We could follow with Adam with you. There were some internal issues with the position and the principal and the placement that probably Adam could fill, P for P could fill you in better than we should.
Okay, you're talking about that.
Yes.
Okay, I'll do that. So that next question I have is dealing with the disparity study. And when I'm looking at these dates, we're talking about over a year. It's been about a year and 3 months since we started this disparity study. And we got 2 dates of completion. If you look at the column here on page 52, the target completion date is 12/31/22. But then in the completion, help me out if I'm not understanding it. In the completion date column, you got 6/30/22. Which is it? And help me to understand how long does it take for a disparity study? Because you're over a year already when it started, and so you got your agency hired to do the study, Can you help me out with that?
Yes, sir. So the completion dates on the chart itself is dealing with the end of the fiscal year. We would end up rolling that over because it would continue out throughout the FY23 year. The process typically is around 12 to 18 months. So from there, it would end up rolling over that 1 year mark. So in the completion date column, you'll see the end of the fiscal year, but then once we get close to that third and fourth quarter, you'll see where that will roll over into that FY23 mark.
Well, my question then is, how far are we going back? 3 years, 5 years? How far are we going back? 5 years?
3 years.
So in just 3 years, I really don't think that's going to be a significant study based upon the numbers that we're working with and how long it's been going on, but that's okay. I mean, whatever numbers we can get back, but I don't think 3 years will give us the real numbers that we're looking for. And I've been on council for 8 years. The disparity study goes way back farther than that. I think we could have went back 10 years, probably would have gave us justified or kind of gave us a hint of the disparities that we're talking about. 3 years will not give us the real challenges that we've been facing. But I guess we'll just have to go with that. But in going back 3 years with a disparity study, and it's been 1 year and 3 months already, and you're just a quarter into it, I'm concerned that we're not pressing it like we need to get these numbers back to us.
Mayor,
I mean, council changes every 2 years.
Mayor, if I could, Mr. Wright and council, this has been something that this council and councils in the past have stressed. It was because of that we actually parted ways with PwC so that we could actually acquire the data. That was when we decided to stand up again in-house our own purchasing department. That goes back to we had a different manager, had a different deputy manager, Rochelle Small-Toney, and all the work that we did around that. The real work of the disparity study is to prove that there are, if there is some disparity. That's not the work, though. The heavy lift is when you come back and say, there are these groups that are represented or not represented in the community, consistent with the way that we want them to be, and then what are going to be those strategies that are put in place to build up those businesses so that they can compete on a level ground. That's the heavy lift. And in order to do that, to be able to prove that disparity, that's what Griffin and Strong, I think is the company, talked about how they want to analyze the data and the spend. And so the minimum that they needed was 3 years, minimum. We think that we've gotten that for them. But when the data comes back and they report that, that's just the beginning, because that doesn't, let's say that we assume that there is a disparity in how the city spends its money. What next? That's where the real heavy lift comes in. So that's where we're trying to get to that point. And that is also why they're looking at the 3 years, because we believe we have really good data that shows, that can show trends if that is or that isn't the case. But we are moving full steam ahead. I know we've presented, I think, twice on the disparity study this calendar year. We actually had the Harvard group come in and help us with data, cleaning up data. I know I joked about it before, but your city staff is killing it. And so we just need time to get this, move these kits. But this is, I think you're going to be very pleased when it comes back, but it does take time to get it done, so that that's the foundation for the work that has to take place next. But that, and again, 25% in, we're 25% into this fiscal year, which is one of those, but we've been working on this now. I came back in 2015 and the city was full bore at it then. And I remember Mayor Colvin, Mayor Pro Tem at the time, same conversations then about we had to have good data. We even worked, remember some of the names, remember Susan Monroe and others, people, we've been working at this for some time. So I think you'll be very pleased when it comes back, but we understand the urgency, we really do.
All right, thank you, Councilman Wright. Did have a couple of questions to that point. So, Mr. Manager, just to clarify, these numbers that are in the Q1, the percentages, is that the percentage of completion as of Q1, or is that the amount of completion in this particular quarter?
It could actually probably be both. Is that the best way to put it?
So With this 25%, for instance, we're on task, we're on where we wanted to be. So our projected deadline and our timeline, we're on task with that. So for that, you would get that 25% for that quarter.
I guess what I'm getting at is it would be more helpful for me personally if I knew what percentage of the disparity study was complete.
Of the overall project?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Because to know that you've done 25% of it, or that your target is 25% in this quarter, doesn't give you the big picture of where you are in the whole process. So that would be helpful. Two is, that kind of dovetails into my question about, now, I did want to go on something I wrote down while the manager was talking about the disparity study. So council, you remember it was a tremendous lift, political lift, to get our process back in-house that the city controlled. PwC did it. We didn't have a lot to say about it, and we politically worked our way to bring it back in-house so we do control it. But now, if my understanding is correct, PwC has implemented a LSB DBE program as well, and they've taken some steps to try to be more equitable. So they have all of the data. I don't want to start the process over, but they have it, and you have a group that has seemed interested in it. But I don't want to slow this down because it seems like a very lengthy process. Anyway, 12 to 18 months is what you're saying to analyze 3 years. How effective is that 3 years going to be? Is that the average amount that people review when they're doing disparity studies, or is it a longer period of time?
That was the minimum that they shared that would give you trends. And I think that Griffin and Strong is also handling it for PwC as well.
Okay.
So we have access to any data, legacy data that they have, and it was because of council's interest and your strategic appointments to the PwC board
Right.
that you saw changes over there as well.
All right.
So, again, I think that we are laser focused and all aligned on the same goal.
All right. The last question is, the LSB DBE report has nothing there, but again, this is not a historical point of view. This is just, there was nothing reported for this quarter? Is that what this indicates?
So that next report will come out based on when they present them. It comes out at the end, so we'll present that at the second quarter. So it was just.
How often do we tabulate those transactions?
It will be presented on a quarterly basis.
But now it's not.
So for this start date, was starting in October, and from here on out, we'll report those on a quarterly basis.
I'm just trying to see how we missed a quarter, because we've been doing the LSBDE for 3 years, so.
I know we presented that one at the end of the fourth quarter also, at the year-end review. So we did present it there. I'll follow up as to why the KPI.
It was sporadic. We did not present it to you every quarter. It was usually something that Kim would do as an administrative report that we would put at the end. And I think we did it, every 6 months or something like that, Jay?
We have it every quarter, but we
Yeah.
present every 6 months.
Yeah.
So council, this was one of the things, and I'll move on because we do have quite a bit to cover, but this was one of those things that, as we talked about our manager and attorney, that they shot for goals, that were taken in consideration when it was performance review time. I'd like to see it quarterly so that we know how we're doing, just so there's some consistency to it. Because we have a blowout quarter because we got a lot of projects, and then we have nothing. I still want to be able to see it, to trend it, so. That's all I have. I'll go to Councilmember Ingram and then Waddell.
City Manager Hewitt and Madam Attorney, I just want to make sure that I'm not missing any information, because I think I'm hearing two different things, but I just want to have this dialogue directly with you to make sure I am understanding as it relates to the disparity study. PwC came on as a partner and helped fund part of the study because they also found value in Israel, correct? All right. About a couple of months ago, we received the report from the consultants doing the study that directly, where they told us what was going on with the data and why it was taking so long for the study. That was not too long ago, correct?
Jay, do you recall this? 3 or 4 months ago.
Okay, so yeah, not too long ago. And so if that was like 3 or 4 months ago and they were telling us pretty much these are the reasons why, and I think a lot of it had to do with the amount of data that probably was not there from what I remember. Is that correct?
Well, so there's two things going on here. One, you have the 3-year window. And so general statute only requires the governmental agency to keep all the paperwork for 3 years. And you kind of alluded to the fact they go through everything. They go through bid tags. They want to know who subprimes are, subcontractors are. And so we have that full set of 3 years of data. So that's usually why it's the industry standard that they go through 3 years, right? And then that goes into the other point. They're looking at everything because they want to know, even down to not the primes, but the subs of the primes. They want to know the bid tags, everybody who bid on everything. So it is just a lot of data for the over hundreds of millions of dollars that we do per year in transactions.
And to add to that, they're doing this for PWC as well. So I just wanted to make sure that this is taking a while because that's times 2. Is that how you understand it?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Well, I think now they have 2 separate contracts, correct?
I think Jay,
Yeah, it's 2 separate contracts.
Yeah, we paid 300.
So we partnered together. There was some synergies that lowered the overall price,
But it's 2
they
separate
pay-
contracts.
They pay their bill, we pay our bill.
So that's just like them doing the work for 2 different
But they
cities.
still came on as a partner. That's the point I'm making.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
In the beginning, we did pause we did pause for 2 months in the beginning to bring them on as a partner to streamline the kickoff being at the same time.
Okay. All right, thank you. Councilmember Ingram. I'm sorry, Waddell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that we accept the FY 2022 first quarter strategic performance report.
Second.
All right, there's a motion by Councilmember Waddell to accept the report, seconded by Councilmember Ingram. Any discussion on the motion? All right, council, you said discussion? All right, council, look to you for your votes. Vote, motion to approve, acceptance. All right, Councilman Davis?
Agreed.
All right. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Larry.
Appreciate it.
All right, item 9.0 is the public forum. This is a time that any Fayetteville resident may have input and a voice on what goes on in their city. Due to policy restrictions, the forum will not last any longer than 30 minutes. Each speaker will be limited to only 3 minutes to address the city council issues related to the city of Fayetteville. Individuals wishing to speak at tonight's public forum should have signed up with the city clerk prior to the start of tonight's meeting. If you are here to speak on the items that may be on tonight's agenda under the public hearing, I ask that you please reserve your comments until the public hearing. So when your name is called by the city clerk, we ask you to please, you will be recognized. Please clearly state your name and home address for the record. Then when you see, when your time starts, the clock will begin. You will be notified when you have 30 seconds remaining. And at the end of the appointed time, the time has expired. And due to policy restrictions, we're unable to extend the given time. With that being said, Madam Clerk, please call your first speaker.
Yes, Mayor, we have 11 people signed up for this evening. Our first speaker is Miss Kathy Greggs.
Ms. Greggs, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hello, everyone. Good evening. This is Kathy Greggs. My address is 4607 Woodlawn Drive, Fayetteville, North Carolina, 28314. I'm calling tonight because we as Fayetteville PAC did do a sleep-in in Festival Park for 2 days. We also went to the courthouse to do our assessment. Based on our assessment, the statewide Stop Eviction Network, we have implemented as well as submitted a complaint against the city regarding the RAP program that still have not dispersed the funds. We also have done a complaint in the North Carolina State Treasurer audit to see where the funds have been allocated. Hopefully we get that information back. As we reached out to all of our city council members and our county commissioner, we have not received any transparency or any email in return except for Councilwoman Kinston. So I want to give her kudos to even responding to us and assisting us through the process of getting a woman that had 5 children, a veteran on the streets that came to see the mayor and never came back and talked to her after 3 weeks to get her rent. So I do want to thank you for that. As we continue on, as Fayetteville PAC will continue with the statewide effort and continue to file complaints against the city and the county until this money has been dispersed and allocated, because no one should be homeless. Overfunding misappropriation of funds is unprofessional, and everyone should be charged if that is happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Mayor, our next speaker is Miss Teresa Hargrove.
Ms. Hargrove, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I'm here.
Yes, ma'am. Please,
Hi.
please state your name and address for us.
I'm Miss Teresa Hargrove, 1918 Corina Street, Fayetteville, North Carolina. And my discussion tonight is about the RAP program because I was able to get in touch with the help of the mayor. I'm gonna have to give his kudos to the mayor. He did, after reaching out to him and the city director, Mr. Baker, we were able to some results from the RAP program. After talking to the director, we found out some of the issues we were facing as a lot of the computers, a lot of their emails and things was not working. But as of today, and working with the mayor, we have seen some progress. We have seen that some of the people, bills are getting paid. Well, we are talking with Mr. Randall. He suggested that we, because I'm being a liaison to a lot of people in this community that had to wait over 4 months just to see any payments. Now, today we did start seeing some payments. There weren't payments, but they obligated this stuff too. And we also concerned about the length of time. Contingency plan for this at a later date when we have other disasters that come about and we don't have a plan. We want our city to have a plan that people don't have to be homeless waiting 2 and 4 and 3 months to have. But dealing with Mr. Randall, he suggested that everyone put in your applications. They are working as soon as they can to get to most of the people. And they have helped out a lot that Mitch did give to them. They have been helped. But the second thing we'll do is real quick. We are concerned about the violence in Fayetteville. All of these children running around here with guns, there's violence. We need some programs. We need something for these children. We need they don't have to go the route that they go. Families are being terrorized. You're getting drive-bys. Some of you don't hear on the news. And drive-by here, drive-by there. Some people don't have to face it because it's not in their community, but it's in our community. And nobody's addressing this issue. We need help on the gun violence. In the last 3 weeks, calculate how many children have been killed. We need to stop this violence. There's a way. The police need to get together with them, the judges, let them go, whatever. We need help with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hargrove. Appreciate your diligence as well. Madam Clerk?
Our next speaker is Mr. Iman Iranime Mohammed Smith.
Honorable Mr. Smith, are you there?
He is. Asking to star 6, please.
Minister Muhammad, can you star 6 and unmute your phone?
Okay, did that work?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, God bless all this evening, and glad to see you young brothers and sisters working so hard. First of all, thank God first for, and especially Black College Universities, they need our legislators, and they need our love of our new police chief. The new police chief is not getting enough love and support, and we want to make sure that she gets that love and support, which will address a lot of the issues that I've been dealing with for like 30 years, how to solve crime. We know how to solve the crime and the criminals and get rid of the criminals. Wonderful President Obama, he did come to Fayetteville in Fort Bragg, and like Kamala Harris is invited to come to Fayetteville State's homecoming and vote for Fayetteville State's homecoming parade and be a part of it. We need our council member to invite her some more. It's not too late. Other things include our restaurants in Fayetteville, not just on Hay Street, But anyway, our restaurants must have African American, Black American waiters and waitresses in those restaurants in order for our mayor to go in and sit down. If they have only white-only staff, that's in the wrong message that we don't care about Black American waiters and waitresses. And so the way to really make progress is make sure that we have fairness, equity, and we have a balance where we are. That means the police department, when we see you, we want to see black officers and white officers working together, not white-only officers. Other things include the railroad train that we've been working on for about 20 years. The land has been bought, and it's coming from Washington, D.C. to Raleigh already. It's on the drawing board, and it can come from Raleigh to Fayetteville. We intend to bring it from Raleigh to Fayetteville to Wilmington once a day, turn around and come back and pick up Fort Bragg soldiers and take them to the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. And Mayor Dawkins and myself, we spearheaded a lot of that activity. The movies downtown have got to have full support for our children. Those movies need to be encouraged by the city council. Like when we grew up, we had movies that had penguins, and they had, Black American movies and things of that nature that the children could enjoy. And we need the city council to go and sit in those movies and be a part of those movies and take the children. And it's not enough of that being done. God has blessed the baseball stadium downtown tremendously, and $30 million worth of hard work with help from the North Carolina Legislative Black Caucus that God has blessed us with. And we're pushing now to build the 21 stories on top of the baseball stadium, in case some didn't know that. And
Thank you.
Commissioner Ed Melvin informed me.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We appreciate the rundown for us. Madam Clerk.
Mayor, our next speaker is Miss Carrie Williams.
Ms. Williams, can you hear us? Ms. Williams, can you hear us?
She's not there.
Okay.
Our
Madam
next
Clerk?
speaker is Miss Angelina Smith.
Ms. Smith, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, hi, how you doing? My name is Angelina Smith. At this time, I am currently dislocated. Me and my daughter filled out for the RAP program on the 29th. I've been calling on 2 or 3 different occasions every day, 3 different times. Today I called, I didn't get an answer. That the option for updates, there was no answer at all. I eventually chose the second option, which was to do a new application. I was told that my application went through, but I got an award letter, but it's still pending. I just want to know, at the pending state, if you're displaced, you don't have nowhere to go, and you're out there homeless and you're waiting on a disbursement, but you can't get an answer when it's going to be dispersed. I don't know what you don't know what to do, and you don't know where to get the answers from. I heard Mr. Baker, from my understanding, if he could get my number down. My name is Angelina Smith, and can just kind of call me and let me know what's going on, where we're at. Me and my daughter displaced. We're trying to get our children back in the home, and next month we have court to have those children hopefully, prayerfully placed back in our home from a 3-year battle. So, I don't know what else to do. Again, my name is Angelina Smith. My number is 910.
Wait, Ms. Smith, we have your number. I don't know if you want to give it out like that.
Okay.
We do have your number. We'll have the manager, we'll have someone call you. There may be some other resources while you're waiting on ramp, but someone will call you, okay?
Okay, please do.
We will, and God bless you. Hang in there.
Thank you, I will.
Okay. All right, Madam Clerk.
Mayor, our next speaker is Miss Joanne Adams.
Miss Adams, are you there? Miss Adams, can you star 6?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm Joanne Adams at 210 Central Drive, and I am again requesting a local historical marker for Fayetteville and also a school marker. But I did receive an email from Ms. Ingram, so I won't discuss that any further. But I do want to state that I am tonight requesting that Fayetteville apply for a civil rights trail marker, perhaps in conjunction with FSU. There are to be 50 civil rights trail markers placed across North Carolina, and those markers are funded by the Pomeroy Foundation, the same foundation that funded the Lafayette tour marker that's on Green Street. The markers are being presented by North Carolina African American Heritage Commission in partnership with the North Carolina Office of Archives and History and Visit North Carolina. And I had reached out to the commission to find out if someone from Fayetteville had applied, and no one had not. But this round of application ends on October the 30th. But there will be another time to apply because the markers are being, the grants are being funded from 21 to 2023. And I hope that Fayetteville will actually apply, and perhaps in conjunction with FSU, because the students marched from Fayetteville State downtown, and there were sit-ins, and some of the students went to jail. And I think we deserve to have a marker. So I'd like to have some follow-up there. Thank you. My name is Joanne Adams.
Thank you so much, Ms. Adams. Mr. Manager, that may be an offline conversation with Councilmember Ingram about that. Very interested to hear the outcome of what's available for them. So, Madam Clerk.
Our next speaker is Miss Mary Bavane.
Ms. Bavane, can you hear us? I think it said something about a note that she was accessing with Ms. Hargrove.
Yes, she was accessing with me, so I'll just talk about what she wanted to talk about. Can we do that?
Yeah. Well, no, we usually have the speaker. Is she not on the line?
She's right here.
Oh, okay. All right, Ms. Bavane. Yes, ma'am.
I'm here, but I want her to speak for me, please. Go ahead.
Ms. Bovane is concerned that the programs that's out there, there's no programs out there. From the first round, we had community, like I think it was Endeavors, all those places. None of those places help people with disabilities that were disabled. So she's very concerned about homeowners, not having something in the grant for homeowners, as far as, because a lot of homeowners did lose their job. A lot of homeowners were on unemployment, but and affected by COVID-19, a lot of them. So we was concerned that the city didn't, give any help for homeowners, or we got to go to other resources, which the RAP program, they said that a homeowner, they ultimately telling you is we don't help homeowners. That's one of the concerns. People with disabilities, no help. What else? People, we're concerned that another thing is during the COVID, a lot of the homeowners that were renting to people had no service with home. We have a lot of slumlords in this area. We want to address this. We want our city council to address the slumlords, where they don't fix anything, but they expect their money. That type of thing. Next thing was some affordable house in PWC. It's like they going up on the prices on their bills. People getting bills for $1,300 for 1 month. Come on, $800 for 1 month. Why? Because they all of a sudden that these programs are paying these bills. Why are these light bills so high? You need to see, what the problem is. While address that issue. And we want to address affordable house. A lot of the rent went up. A lot of the people, you can't, once you get evicted, you go for a house, prices has moved up in there. I mean, skyrocket. So that's the second thing. And she also wanted to talk about more resources and more programs, again, for homeless and for the violence in the area. Thank you.
Thank you all. would say that one of the housing committee was talking about some additional supplemental programs for homeowners who were behind, because we did realize that was a gap. But thank you all. Madam Clerk.
Mayor, our next speaker is Miss Kim McLean.
Ms. McLean, can you hear us? Ms. McLean, are you there? They want to star 6?
She here.
Okay.
Yes. Kim. My name is Kim McLean Bunyan. My address is 5421 South Sumac Circle, Fayetteville, North Carolina 28304. I'm calling on behalf of some of my neighbors who have encountered difficulties with getting assistance with their utilities. Like the previous caller said, homeowners are being told they can't get any help with their utilities because they own a home. Also, some of the people who are renting from some of these people, they're not getting anything fixed because they're not able to pay their rent. They're told if you don't pay your rent, then we don't have to fix it. And so we need to find out who these people can contact, get some assistance with that. Because basically these people are not fixing anything. I want to repeat, they're not fixing anything in their homes because they're because they've been told they can't pay rent. They're saying if you don't pay rent, then we don't have to fix anything that's broken. And we have communicated with Mr. Randall, and we have only gotten, good things from him. We got good results. They're slowly coming, but they are coming. So we want to give props to Mr. Randall for his assistance. Okay? And I think that's all we got right now.
All right. Thank you so much. It is code enforcement is still alive and well. So if you are in some substandard, please call the city code enforcement or send an email to myself or any of the other council members to help you with that process. Good livable conditions are not contingent on rent payment. So we will deal with that accordingly. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Mayor, our next speaker is Miss Mia Warren.
Maya,
I'm sorry.
all right. Ms. Warren, are you there? You said no?
No.
All right. Madam Clerk.
Okay, our next speaker is Mr. Joseph Wheeler.
Mr. Wheeler, are you there, sir? Mr. Wheeler, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, good evening. My name is Joseph Wheeler, and I reside in Lakeland Pines. I have been a recipient of the RAP program. As yet, my monies have not been dispersed. It's been over 6 months that I've applied. I was able to do, thankfully, the sleep-in with Fayetteville Pact. That was an amazing bit of research that we did. We found out many things about how an entire population of people, LGBTQ, and women with children, men, are being completely not even regarded in this city. And with these monies not being allocated to people appropriately, this population is about to get larger without any type of oversight from the city about services that are actually usable to them. There is one whole apartment complex that went under a whole different property management company, and without going through any type of eviction process, they put about 50 to 100 people out in the street. That's unacceptable. The RAP program has a table at the courthouse where they're supposed to be doing intake, helping people who already have applications, letting people know what's going on with the funding that they've been told that they will receive. For a week and a half, there has been nobody sitting at that table. It wasn't until the end of last week when Fayetteville Pact was out doing the groundwork, the boots on the ground stuff that they do every day, that anything was done and people showed up. Every day at the magistrate's office, there was anywhere between 75 to 100 people being evicted. When you have an entire park with an entire population of people who cannot be seen because it just looks bad to look at them, that's a problem, because that number with 75 to 100 people being evicted every day in Fayetteville is going to be larger. Are you gonna look away from that many people on a daily basis? It won't be so easy then. So I really feel like the city council need to do something more than what they're doing to look at the RAP program, look at the monies, look at the population of people and the demographics of the people that are out there to actually do something, take notice. That's what they need. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk.
Mayor, our final speaker this evening is Mr. Sean McMillan.
Mr. McMillan, are you there? Mr. McMillan, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good evening. Sean McMillan, 6024 Golden Range Drive. I want to start just by congratulating the County of Cumberland County on the overhaul of its bail policy. Under the old policy, an impoverished 22-year-old single mother could be locked up for something as petty as having a rent-a-center TV for too long, held overnight for bail that she couldn't afford. With the new policy, we're happy that that same mother would be released with the promissory note. So there's progress being made. That's probably the most substantial policy progress that we've seen in Cumberland County in recent years. Also, we note that community advocates are ready to roll up their sleeves and be a part of the advisory board process. I want to caution the council to avoid appointing a group of yes men and women who've never advocated for police reform or increased transparency. Don't be afraid to appoint men and women who will look you in the eye and speak with courage and conviction. The advisory board is a step, but let's not confuse movement with progress. We still need to note that we have a long way to go before we have truly independent oversight of the Fayetteville Police Department. As constructed, the Police Advisory Board will lack many of the most basic characteristics of independent oversight as defined by NACO. Number one on their list is actually independence, which we know this board doesn't have. Adequate funding, ample authority, transparency, and I think we're missing some opportunities to get early community stakeholder support. We've heard a lot tonight about $200,000 New Year party in the face of what Mr. Wheeler and Ms. Greggs were talking about, tremendous suffering, homelessness crisis, and an eviction crisis. Ask that the council please reshift most of your energy to things that matter for the community. We've heard you talk about your opinion on FPD using TikTok, recent times of feather signs. We've heard you talk for countless hours about real estate transactions. Use that same energy and hire at least 4 full-time NACO credentialed oversight practitioners. When we've already laid out the formula, a lawyer, 2 investigators, and admin specialists. I'm also going to say some names that we don't hear you say, and it speaks towards the suffering of the community. Wendy Sutton, Joshua Oxendine, Adrian Roberts, Trevor Smotherman, Kevin Grissett, Lawrence Graham, Shakur McNair, and Najee Higgins, the nephew of George Floyd. All of these people were killed or died in custody in the hands of local law enforcement. We want to remind you that the worst form of injustice is justice pretended, so let's stop pretending. It's past time for the council to move beyond meaning well and actually start doing well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
We have no further speakers.
All right, that closes the public forum.
Mayor, when are we supposed to get some feedback from the ramp program? When the gentleman came and spoke, when are they coming back to us?
I think it was, 30 days, Mr. Hewitt? So that was the beginning or the end of last month, so they'll be here by the second meeting of this month? Is that right?
We can have them 25th, or we can program it for November 1st.
I'd like to hear them the 25th.
Yeah, because apparently what we just heard.
On the one hand, we're celebrating and appropriating money, but
it's broken.
Then you have people who don't have checks. So
I will just say that there is an answer to that, but not everyone is talking.
In the same situation, understand?
Yes.
Yep. All right, thank you. Public hearing. Individuals desiring to speak at the public hearing must have signed up to speak with the city clerk by name and address before 7 p.m. this evening. 15 minutes will be allotted for each side of the issue at the public hearing. Individual speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each, unless by previous arrangement a single spokesperson is designated, in which case the spokesperson may use the entire 15 minutes. City clerk calls your name, you'll be recognized. Ask that you please restate your name and address for the record. You may then address the city council. When 30 seconds remain, you'll be notified, and at the end of your allotted time, you will be notified. At this time, we'll stop for staff presentation. Mr. Hewitt. Ms. McDonald.
Mr. Mayor, as you recall, you all have been working with a redistricting consultant to look at redrawing your maps as is necessitated after each decennial census. Tonight is the public hearing on the maps that have been presented to the council for consideration as required by the statute to receive public input, and as such, turn it over to the clerk to call any speaker.
Madam Clerk.
Mayor, we have no speakers for this item.
So with that, I'll open and I'll close the public hearing. All right. Just to follow up, the City Council does have a special meeting planned for this Wednesday at 5 p.m. for redistricting, where we will work through to try to finalize or get council on a consensus to start to adopt some of the options, or to otherwise instruct the consultant to do otherwise. Mr. Manager, you had anything additional?
Yes, sir. We will have copies of the district maps, we hope lined along the wall, so that it may be more of an interactive session than what, but of course, any decisions, things that council takes, would need to get you to a mic, but it's our hope that we'll be able to have them lined around the wall so that as council is talking and walking, you might be able to actually see or visualize them.
All right. Well, look forward to it, council. With that, ask a motion to adjourn. All right. Have a good evening.